Okay, what's up guys? So in the same vein of the last video where I discussed the most game breaking or meta changing units, in this video I want to talk about the most controversial. So not necessarily like the worst units, but units who had a larger than normal discussion around them. Some units where the discussion was because they were bad, some because they were just super wonky, and for other little reasons. So I went through again the timeline, and something that's very interesting doing this is a lot of this beginning of this list right here. So much of the beginning is like up to the 3rd year anniversary. There's less controversy in the beginning years, and I don't think it's because the game was being made better or there was just less wonkiness. I think it's just the community was a little bit smaller, and so the discussion wasn't as loud for some units. The earliest example that I was able to, at least in my eyes, see, and of course if there's anything here I'm missing, please let me know if something went over my head and I didn't realize it, or whatever it may be. Any discussion, yeah. So the earliest example I really could think of was this guy. I remember back in the day, this guy was always joked on as being like the worst. I think for a while he had the moniker of the worst unit in the game, like the worst SSR, of course, summonable SSR. I remember that being sort of a title for him, and I don't remember how long that went for, but I do remember this guy, while not being, I guess, not controversial, just was a really bad unit that people back in the day would bring up. And so he's the earliest example of like a controversial bad unit I could think of. I'm gonna try to get through these kind of quick because there's so many examples I had here. Next, not quite, it wasn't a bad unit, but I do remember him being somewhat controversial because he came out with Tech Vegito, and in every way Tech Vegito is usually just used. This guy could do damage for you, but the support from Tech Vegito I remember being just a lot better for people. People preferred that way more than they for this guy. Tech Vegito is doing just more for you. Another thing too is you're going to see in the beginning of this list, a lot of these units I'm going to bring up, you're going to go, okay, yeah, that's, maybe a little bit I can kind of see, or you might just not agree at all. But as we get further in, you'll see, oh yeah, that's true. Yep. They were pretty controversial, stuff like that. Next, this guy, when he came out, was really funny. The unit itself is just incredibly funny. The fact he's hurting you so much. It was a terrible unit too, so it was like a terrible unit in Chaozu and a Cyberman, both being terrible, and then you have them also hurting you. They were doing more damage to you than they were even helping at that point. So I remember him being incredibly funny. I would say more funny than controversial back in the day. These guys, great unit, but their controversy was on global when they first came out. Their leader skill did not exist. It was a to be continued. They released these units incomplete. They did not fully release him, and his counterpart Omega Shenron had no leader skill, so you were just running them with their passive, and that was a big uproar of the community, and rightfully so. I don't think they should be releasing a unit not full. They shouldn't be giving you just part of you, especially if they want you to spend money on summoning. But yeah, so next I have Strength Vegito. And this actually is fast forward. This kind of breaks the timeline. This is more or less talking about his EZA, but going through the timeline, I saw, he came out earlier, but his EZA, the first point when he came out, before, it was so controversial that they had to change his EZA. One of the few times they even changed the EZA for a character. When his EZA was first announced and we saw his details and stuff, a lot of people said that they made him worse. The main reason being that you were basically never stacking anymore. And what made him good was that you could stack and stack and stack with him. And they changed him to basically you will never stack again. And that really hurt him. Luckily, they did change the unit, but the only reason they did that was because the massive outcry that was put for the community because of that. Next, I have Tech Broly here. I mean, this guy, when he came out, was just trash. The fact that they released a Tech Super Saiyan 3 Broly such a cool unit, what if unit, and they made him garbage. This minus 10% per keister obtained, just it was awful. It was like, cool, he can do damage, but he's just gonna melt to enemies. And they didn't help it. When they easy 8 him, every other unit was usually losing what made them like their weakness during this time, and this guy still kept it. He still lost defense even when he easy 8'd, and that was awful. And then they also threw in this three tech keisters to do an additional, not even additional, a medium chance of addition for this character. 3 easy 8 and easy 8 was so controversial and just terrible. The fact that they did this to him was insane. It was awful. Next, we have the Super Saiyan 4s. This one was not their performance, although people were upset that their stats were pretty low. They ended up being, like they performed well. Their controversy was their animations. The problem that they did was they released these guys after releasing a couple units. Let's see if I can find them. So they had stolen. They made the units around the same time, so they weren't stolen, but the fact that we had saw this guy right here. So these guys are 30th of January. This guy was July 18th, 2018. This guy almost a year, I mean, like such a long time apart from their release, and they used the counter from this guy. Now I do know that nowadays we know that these guys were made basically at the same time, and these were just held on to for a lot longer. So really, when they made them, they were just using the same exact counter. They just made a counter that was the same for all three, right? Like, of course. But the way it came off was, oh, he just has a counter that guy had. That's almost, almost came out a year ago at this point, right? Not a year, but it came out months ago. He has an exact same counter. Okay, so nothing new there. We've seen that, right? And then the other thing they did, and this one's going to be a little harder for me to find, they use super attack animation. So the 12 key that these guys do was also a redo. It was just another animation redone. And I vaguely remember the unit. I might have to pause here. I think it was these guys right here. These guys released 2018, 2019 on global. I'm pretty sure these are the right ones. If I'm wrong, or you know what, I might be wrong. Actually, I think it's hitting me now. It's either those guys or it was, let's see, where is that little fucker at? These guys right here. These were the ones. I think, no, this was it, right? January of 2019. Get rid of that one. January 2019, January of 2019. They came out at the exact same time. So maybe a little less of, they came out at the exact same time, but these guys also had the exact same animation, if I remember correctly. I could have been right about those other ones, but I do remember this controversy well, that they had just copied if someone could correct me on that one, I'd appreciate that. But they had copied 12 key animations. Their counter was also something we had already seen. All this stuff led them to be, when you make an anniversary unit, you want like all these new animations and all this great stuff. And they had some controversy because they didn't have new animations. They were just, of course, they're 18 key, but it was just a lot. They did bring, active skills. They were the introduction of active skills, and of course, I'm sure a lot of time went into those, and that might be why they just said, oh, for the 12 key, let's just do this, or for the 18 key. Or the 18 key was a copy, actually. Look at me. Next, then they followed up that year. They said, you know what? We need more controversy for the main headliner units. So they gave us Go On and Cell. And if you were there, these were the funniest. Absolutely the funniest. These awakening conditions, oh my god, these were amazing. Go On, you basically never saw. And Cells was so hard to get, 30% or less, just to see. These forms, Perfect Cell, Super Saiyan 2 Go On, were the hardest shit to see on release, man. These were like insanely difficult to get for no reason. And then they said, oh, you know what, the two headliners, they have some controversy. Let's give some of the banner units too. So then their idea for Gohan here, well, you know what, it's so hard to get this active skill. It's so hard to transform him, right? You need the androids. There's not any good androids right now, so the only android you can use is 16. Well, you know what? Let's give him a good 16. So then they gave us this guy. Not the worst unit ever. He was actually pretty good. Well, the downside is you couldn't use this guy with Gohan. I have no clue what they were thinking. You can't use these two on the same team. You were never going to get these two on the same team together. You use Android says Cell Saga, so you can run Cell and then run them both. That was the only way you'd run these two together, but then you're running such a wonky team. You couldn't run them on Gohan's own team, right? He's not Kamehameha, so you think, okay, well, look at the secondary AGL. All you got to do is make him AGL. They made him in. So it was such an idiotic design for this guy, for a unit that was already struggling with controversy. This whole celebration was insane. I don't know what they were thinking. Just make this guy AGL. It was so simple. He's AGL, so at least you can run him there. I guess they just wanted you to run cells, 2 cells with Gohan, and it makes such a wonky team. Next, I have Zamasu. This guy was just controversial because his defense was really just questionable. He was not a bad unit, but this whole no defense and just giving him straight damage reduction really led to him just not being as good as he could have been. Hopefully his EZA is really good, but this guy's controversy maybe a little less than, especially last what I just went over. Next I have these two. This controversy comes from the fact of whether or not they were really the best in the game or not. It was a huge debate in the community. Oh, are these guys great? Are these guys good but not the best? No, they are the best. No, they're not the best. I think nowadays people look at it as, yes, they probably were the best at the time. But this controversy was just a debate of how good are these two, really. Next we have Blue Kaioken, who his debate and controversy was people really liked him because of his Spirit Bomb and how much damage he did, and then people hated him because this guy can't take a hit for shit. And they were like, I don't care about the Spirit Bomb, he's gonna get me killed every time. And other people were like, no, he is going to drop the Spirit Bomb and do insane damage for you. And I think nowadays it's almost flipped. People have swapped, where I feel like him having no defense, who cares about the Spirit Bomb, was winning. Now it's, oh, he does so much damage, the Spirit Bomb, who cares? Of course, some of that is being, he's not getting you killed as easily because he can guard. But still, his controversy was kind of big back in the day. Next I have Cooler. And Cooler, great unit. His controversy is tied to another unit, Tech Gohan. And I feel, the controversy here was who was better. It was always, who was the best TUR, Cooler or Gohan? Cooler, Gohan, Cooler, Gohan. That was it was actually, while it was controversial, it was a nice little fun debate. Nowadays, even looking back, it was definitely Tech Gohan, and even now it's Tech Gohan. But it was, the controversy, he's tied to Tech Gohan. I think I have Tech Gohan up here. And it's same thing. He's gonna have the same reason. Broly, Chila, and Lemo. This one, I remember there's multiple things about this unit. One, when they released this guy, all these categories came next. He was on one category, movie bosses. So we had no teams with the anniversary that he was in. The other controversy was they threw Chila and Lemo, which is not bad, but we don't have a Broly other than the Dragon Ball Super Broly that came out with Gogeta. We have no LR Broly, and so they threw this one. Chila and Lemo are great characters. I think everyone can agree. But like a Broly alone would have been so damn hype at this time, and they just didn't give that to us. Another big controversy. Big bad bosses. Why does this Broly have it, but every other Broly doesn't? That never made any sense, right? Chilai alone doesn't have big bad bosses. Broly alone doesn't have big bad bosses. So I guess Lemo is a big bad bosses unit. If they released a single Lemo unit, he would have big bad bosses according to Dokkan, because he is the only reason that big bad bosses would be on this card for some weird reason. Just some controversies there. Next, Tech Gohan again leads in with strength. Cooler, same reason. Who was better? This guy had a brief controversy with Int Gohan, Super Saiyan 2 Easy Aid 1, because the debate was who is better between the two of them. Remember that? Another just who is better type controversy that we had. I'm trying to move these quicker. I don't want this video to be super long. This was Janemba and Pikkon. Their issue was just hype. I think hype was really what set them back. The December release is always looked on And the fact that they threw Gogeta in the card, but he's not actually the card, it's Pycon. And then you have Fat Janemba. Fat Janemba had his own controversy. The fact that he had to get 4 orbs, 2 rainbows where Pycon was only 3 and 1 rainbow, and how Super Janemba lost guard for some reason. The only Janemba to ever lost guard was just, it was so weird that they did that. It made no sense. But these two, I think they're looked upon more favorably now. People actually, I see people defending these two rather than when they first came out being kind of upset about them. But again, I don't think it was really their performance. It was just them as hype. Next I have this guy. There's so much you could say about this guy. This guy is insane. The amount, I'm not going to sit on him. I think people have talked about him enough. But the fact that he is some of the most wonky, and I didn't put him on the list, but strength 17 as well. We threw, for some reason, 17 can't catch a break. And also while I'm here, another type of controversy that's not specific to any unit, Extreme Tech. Something about Extreme Tech 2 at this time, they just didn't like. A lot of these you're going to see Extreme Tech. Not Extreme Tech, that's not a controversy. Like a lot of these quote-unquote bad units come from Extreme Tech. Another Extreme Tech. I don't have a lot of Extreme Techs on here, but a lot of bad units at the time were Extreme Tech. For some reason, Extreme Tech could not catch a break. Who knows why, but this guy had so much chance to get key on hit. Damage reduction after he gets hit the next turn. There was just so much to say about this guy, and I won't harp on about him, but this guy had so many issues when he came out. He was a good unit, no doubt. I think this guy was actually better than people think he was at the time, but he's just so controversial. Blue Vegeta Evolution with UI. He was controversial because he was clearly just the worst unit of the two. Usually that the what's the word I'm looking for? Damn it. Anniversary units come out and they're usually both really damn good, neck and neck. Both of them are doing amazing. This was like one of the first anniversaries where, of course, not the first anniversary. First anniversary, it was clear Gogeta was better. But the second anniversary, both were on the same level. Third anniversary, both were on the same level. Fourth anniversary, both were on the same level. Fifth, on the same level. And then we finally got back to here where it was just so clear that Vegeta was worse. And it sucked. It sucked so much. Vegeta just needed more because they gave UI Goku 70% dodge and then they gave this guy, building to 40. You still had to take hits to get to 40. Which is just like, it was insane. They should have just given like flat 50. Man, like honestly, why not? This guy was just controversial just because of his comparison to UI. And then their banner unit, this guy just seemed really undertuned when he came out. Not a controversial pick. I think he was actually a pretty hype pick for all things considered for that celebration. I think he was pretty good. That was a good pick. But it was just his performance was just not what it should have been. Next, we have Tech Piccolo. Oh, this one was great. This guy was so bad on release. It was insulting how bad this guy was. It was insane. Other than just general bad. But really, his controversy was more overlooked by this guy. This guy, great on release. His controversy comes from him as he aged. People were debating, is he good? Is he good? Is he falling off? Is he trying to see basically whether or not he was, how good he was, right? Stacking defense. How good is that stacking defense? That's what his controversy came to. Next, I have this guy. Actually, he's super late in the list, but he just goes back towards that Tech Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. Same thing. Just goes back to Tech Super Saiyan 2 Gohan debates. Next, I have these guys. These guys, their big controversy was that they came out a year after Strength Vegeta, and they were the exact same unit, basically. They were a little better defensively upon transforming. They had that going for them, but they also had things that took away, right? So their Scouter was less, the nullification. There was some differences, but through and through, they were basically the exact same unit. Because of that, a year later, it felt like they shouldn't have been the same unit. This guy should have been a decent bit better. Like they should have been like, this guy's clearly better. Well, I do think he was better because of his more damage reduction post-transformation. He should have been clearly number one. Next, I have this guy. This guy's controversy was that he got so much worse when he transformed, which is so weird for a transformation unit to a unit you don't want to transform. He was a unit you want to never transform because he got worse when he transformed. For some weird reason, they made him worse upon transforming. Next, these guys, they're more controversial now than on release, I'd say. And that is mainly because of the transformation into Gohan. The need for 5 super attacks, no, 3, sorry, 5 would have been insane. The need for 3 super attacks on a unit with no built-in additional is crazy. I have no clue why they would want you to have a transformation done through super amounts of supers, but then give you no built-in additional. That's just criminal. Next we have Vegeta for the 7-year anniversary. This guy just, if I could sum up his controversy, was you're talking about a unit that is a guarding unit that you want to put in slot 1 that gets most of his defense in slot after supering. It's kind of idiotic that they did that. I don't know why they would do that. And lastly, what I have on this list, gotta end it on this guy. Come on, there's no one else with more of a legacy of controversy than the god himself, Raditz. I feel like I don't have to say anything about this guy. I think he speaks for himself. He speaks entirely for himself. I don't have to say a single word about him. So that's my list. I could definitely keep going. There are more, but I did want to stop here. There you go. Goditz. Exactly. Goditz. We'll stop on this guy, but thank you guys so much for watching. That was sort of a list of controversial units throughout the history of Dokkan. Thank you guys. I hope to see you guys again. Subscribe if you like my content, and I will be back again with another video later on. Peace out.